tukaona tumefika nyumbani.
Tunafaidika na hii kiwanda sababu hakuna pahali ingine tunapelekaga maziwa tangu zamani.
Zamani tulikuwa tunakunywa tu maziwa, lakini wakati huu tunashukuru Mungu kwa sababu tumepata mahali ya kupeleka KCC.
Matches don't come any bigger than the Emirates FA Cup quarterfinals, which will take center stage this weekend as the quest for a new champion continues. Before the All Northwest tie at Goodison Park, where Everton will be looking forward to another thriller against favourites Manchester City at 8:30 p.m. Live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Channel 1 News Hour. It is the 17th day of March 2021. I trust you've had a lovely day so far. Well, we have a comprehensive bulletin lined up for you. For now, we start with the highlights.
Kenya is facing another surge of COVID-19. One that is not only varying from what we previously faced, but a wave that is more aggressive.
Facilities stretched to the limit. Ministry of Health warns Kenyans that hospitals are running out of space with the surge in coronavirus infections.
Exams are going to be okay. Can we ensure that in schools and during the examination process, no other person except authorized people access schools, and those that access schools on duty of monitoring or whatsoever must adhere strictly to the COVID-19 regulations.
Heightening surveillance. Ministry of Education says it's on the trail of those planning to abate cheating in the national exams. And defending its staff, IEBC terms as unconstitutional plans by BBI to create 70 new constituencies.
Welcome to the program. My name is Jacky. Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. Remember, this is an interactive segment. You can reach us on our Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1 or at Jacky Wambiru. Now, to kick us off, the Ministry of Health has warned of overstretched health facilities in the country by those who require hospitalization after testing positive for coronavirus. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says only patients requiring oxygen will be admitted, with the rest of the cases advised to opt for home-based care. Kagwe sounded the warning on a day that Kenya maintained a high positivity rate of 17% for the second consecutive day, with 1,279 testing positive out of a sample of 7,450. 12 more Kenyans succumbed to the virus, raising the fatalities to 1,937.
With the country witnessing its third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, Kenyans have been warned against recklessness in observance of the prevention protocols.
Dangerous area. It is that area of public transport. And I can assure you that enforcement agencies will be firm and strict, even if it means banning some of the circles away from participating in business. People need to take responsibility. Do not agree to sit next to somebody in a matatu who is not wearing a mask, because quite possibly they will kill you.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe urged counties to promptly bolster efforts to curb the spread of the virus, as no patients will be transferred to Nairobi for treatment.
It is very likely that counties will have to take care of their own patients at the county level, because Nairobi County has got a large population.
The ministry's hard stance stems from the rising infection rate, as 1,279 people tested positive out of a sample size of 7,450 people tested in the last 24 hours.
Seeing our positivity rate rise with a vengeance that we have not witnessed before.
Surveillance of the country's entry points will be intensified in the wake of 4 variants of the virus being detected in Mombasa.
To see how many of these travelers coming to the country are carrying these new variants. Of note, of course, those traveling through the southern border are mainly the South African variant. And as I said, we had about 4 reported so far and 1 that was returned at the border.
The Ministry of Health is happy that the vaccine rollout has kicked off well, with 20,000 people already vaccinated. As the country enters the 3rd wave hit of the pandemic, individual responsibility is going to be the key in winning the war against coronavirus pandemic. Reporting from Afya House, Nairobi County, I'm Ruth Wamboi.
Well, still on matters emanating from the COVID-19, the Ministry of Health says Kenya will continue with the rollout of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Even with safety concerns being raised, the ministry claims no single case of adverse side effects has been reported among those who have received the jab so far, except for 40 cases of mild headache and fever. This comes amid claims by a section of stakeholders in the healthcare sector that failure to carry out a proper sensitization campaign on the AstraZeneca vaccine is causing fear among citizens. Purity Museo with more details.
Use of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine has been suspended in a number of European countries after a small number of blood clots were reported among people who recently received the jab. Germany, France, Italy and Spain are among the countries that have shelved the vaccine. The World Health Organization (WHO) says there is no evidence that the clots were linked to the vaccine. Kenya's Ministry of Health has announced it will continue with the vaccine rollout.
We are continuing administering the vaccines. The information that is out there right now does not seem to indicate any link between vaccine administration and these particular clotting events that have been reported.
How many reports have been reported? 4? 40, but none of them is serious to warrant an investigation. Majority of them are headache, a bit of muscle pain, and fever.
The ministry claiming that so far 20,000 citizens have been vaccinated with no adverse effects reported. But a section of stakeholders in the medical field are questioning the approach used by the Ministry of Health to roll out the vaccine, citing the sensitization gap.
Some of the concerns are around adverse effect monitoring. We've seen, and healthcare workers are not immune to what is happening in other countries, and that is one thing that has not clearly come out.
Nurses have not been involved. And as KMPDU have said, we have not been involved in terms of training.
The sector players are also of the opinion that top leadership in the country be among the first groups to get the jab to instill confidence to the populace as it's happening world over. Purity Museo, Channel 1 News.
In other news, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has termed the addition of 70 constituencies proposed by the Building Bridges Initiative Bill unconstitutional. Speaking Wednesday while making presentations to the Joint Justice and Legal Affairs Committees of Parliament on the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, the Commission chairperson Wafula Chebukati said creation of constituencies is the sole mandate of IEBC as stipulated in the Constitution.
Constitution is very clear, but that is a debate we are going to have.
The chairperson of Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Wafula Chebukati, was before the Joint Justice and Legal Affairs Committees of Parliament on Wednesday to shed light on the country's preparedness for a referendum if the BBI sails through Parliament. It is here that he termed the additional 70 constituencies in 28 counties proposed by the Building Bridges Initiative unconstitutional.
I don't know how the BBI report or how the BBI team came up with the 70 constituencies, the allocation of the 70 constituencies to the respective counties. So I don't know what factors they took in consideration and what factors they did not take in consideration. And so I would not wish to speculate on that issue.
Chebukati says they were not consulted as a commission by the promoters of the initiative.
The commission was not consulted on that, and I don't know the source of that allocation of the 70. It again goes to the mandate of the commission, that the commission takes responsibility under Article 88 and 89 of the Constitution to ensure that this data that is received is properly populated. We, as a commission, cannot see that mandate to another agency.
What was the question to IEBC?
On referendum, IEBC said it is ready to conduct the exercise but cannot carry out procurement of items for the same due to lack of funds, saying the same had hindered the process of delimitation.
The issue of budget for referendum, I think the management team has been holding meetings with National Treasury, and they had draft proposals. The matter has not come up to the Commission at plenary level to tell us what has been agreed. So I would want to defer this question until I have the right information on the issue of the budget for referendum.
Timothy Kipnusu, Channel 1 News.
And on matters education, the Ministry of Education says there are intelligence reports of those planning to steal the national examination set to kick off next week, warning that the culprits will be dealt with accordingly. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says Isabania, Kisumu and Mombasa have been mapped out as hotspots for those planning cheating, and nothing will be left to chance in administering the Class 8 and Form 4 exams. Professor Magoha, who was in Mombasa on an inspection tour, said the government has deployed all its machinery to monitor the exams, which will be conducted in strict adherence to the COVID-19 protocols.
While on a tour to inspect schools ahead of the proper kickoff of the national examination set for next week, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha is warning those planning to cheat that they will not have it easy. Professor Magoha said the ministry has already zeroed in on Hispania, Kisumu and Mombasa based on intelligence reports, and surveillance have been heightened in the identified areas for any cheats.
So the few crooked people who may be my own staff or teachers or others who are casualties with them, who are trying to confuse and tell the people that there are exams to be purchased. And the hotspot remains, as I said, headquartered in Isebania, Migori, and some parts of Kisii. We are watching you. We are watching you, and don't say that we did not warn you. Don't even attempt. We are not going to be merciful if you find that you are going to confuse our children who already have enough stress. It is not supposed to be a place where you can write things which you will remove during the exams. We are already seeing certain people planning to do so.
It will be mandatory for all masks to be checked before candidates access examination rooms, as the exams will be held in strict conformity to the COVID-19 protocols.
Exams are going to be okay. COVID is ready and available. can we ensure that in schools and during the examination process, no other person except authorized people access schools, and those that access schools on duty of monitoring or whatsoever must adhere strictly to the COVID-19 regulations. Otherwise, every child shall sit the examination where the child was registered, full stop, except where, for example, the private school folded up and the child shifted to another school. The Kenya National Examination Council has prepared itself to deal with that issue. There are a few of my own staff who are trying to move children from one center to another. Do not dare. Those children, those exams are security documents, and when you move a child from one center to another,
rehearsals for KCPE will be held Friday 20th this week, and exams proper will run from 22nd to 24th of this month, while KCSE will kick off from 25th this month to 21st of next month. Reporting for Channel 1 News from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Mondiga.
Now, Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui has dismissed calls by a section of lawmakers and the judiciary to lower the minimum age of consent for sex from 18 to 16 years. Chelugui says such a move is not a priority for the government, but rather fast-tracking the enactment of a comprehensive children protection law that will address emerging trends affecting children in the country.
Speaking at the launch of a report on minimum age of consent for sex by the National Gender and Equality Commission, Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui clarified the government will not lower the minimum age of consent for sex.
The age of consent should remain 18 or above. So wale jamaa wanasemanga huyu mrembo ameiva, huyu nilimwona kama ni mama mzee.
While calling for a multidisciplinary approach towards protection of children in the country, Chelugui said his ministry, in consultation with other stakeholders, has recommended an amendment of Children's Act 2001 that will soon be presented to Parliament.
The whole House is already aligned, it's already primed and mobilized. And through the support of the partners, we've had already prior sessions. And so I believe, and my hope, that before end of the year, we will have this bill enacted and signed into a bill.
The Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary further warned parents whose teenage children go missing without proper explanation that they risk being arrested and fined.
And I'm appealing to all fathers in the room and across the country to make sure that they take up responsibility.
In the report titled Minimum Age of Consent for Sex, Addressing the Dilemma, the National Gender and Equality Commission, among other stakeholders, noted the problematic Section 8 of the Sexual Offences Act, which criminalizes sex among teenagers, to be amended to protect teenage boys who are often prosecuted unfairly.
There have been cases of consensual sex between a boy of 17 and a girl of 16. The Romeo and Juliet love, the Romeo and Juliet consensual sex. The Children's Act and the amendments to the Children's Act should address that, so that the Sexual Offences Act is left to deal with those molesting our children.
These two youngsters agree and they bring another youngster. Now you don't know what to do with it. 3 children.
Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
And on to the corridors of justice. 2 people accused of conspiring to defraud a businesswoman of a piece of land in Nairobi County will have the 2 charge sheets consolidated on the 30th of this month. Susan Wamushi and Patrick Newton Gukura Muraya are accused of conspiring to defraud Edanjeri Kamau, a plot of land allocated in Embakasi in 2010 by falsely pretending to be the genuine and valid owners of the property. Resident Magistrate Jane Kamau directed the accused to appear before Senior Principal Magistrate Bernard Uchori and on the said date.
Susan Wamoshie and Patrick Gukura Muraya were on Thursday arraigned before Resident Magistrate Jane Kamau for consolidation of a case in which they are accused of conspiring to defraud Eda Njeri Kamau of her land in Embakasi. The duo committed the offences in 2010, falsely claiming to be genuine owners of the land measuring 0.0250 hectares, contrary to Section 317 of the Penal Code. According to the charge sheet, they also presented forged documents and false testimony to High Court Judge Kosi Bor on October 13, 2013, contrary to Section 350 of the Penal Code, made a document without authority contrary to Section 357, obtained land registration by false pretenses contrary to Section 20, and perjury contrary to Section 108(1)(a) of the same code. The charges will be consolidated on March 30th this year.
And away from the corridors of justice, let's cross over to Machakos County, where our reporter Kamche Menza is on standby and will update us on the preparations of the Machakos senatorial by-elections that will be held tomorrow in Machakos County. And Kamche is currently on standby with Machakos County Commissioner Fred Ndunga. Kamche, bring us to speed.
All right, Wambiru, good evening back there in studio. We're coming to you live, like you said, from Machakos town. And tomorrow is the day when the Machakos residents will be out there in the ballot boxes to elect one of their choices in the Senate seat. And of course, remember this seat was left vacant following the death of the then Senator Boniface Kabaka on the 11th of December 2020 following a short illness. And of course, earlier on when we arrived here, we actually was at the Machakos University, which is one of the centers that actually what was happening this evening is that the ballot boxes were being distributed to actually different polling stations and polling centers where the voting will be taking place tomorrow. And we managed to talk to the IEBC officials as well as the county commissioner specifically on the security part of this whole exercise. You remember what happened in Kabuchai and Matungu, and basically what the interior sector has said is that they will not want a repeat of that. But without further much ado, I'm joined by the county commissioner of Machakos County, that is Fred Ndunga, I beg your pardon, who will be telling us more on the security preparations that they have done here. He was earlier telling us that security is well beefed up, but we would like to hear from him more on how exactly they are planning maybe to curb any malpractices that might come along. Maybe, sir, if you could start us off, how exactly have you planned, or rather, how exactly is the security beefed up in this area?
The security agencies in Machakos are well prepared to secure this by-election. We have 879 polling centers and 1,335 polling stations. And in each polling station, there will be 2 police officers. And around the polling centers, we shall have mobile patrols that will ensure that the area is completely suitable for voting and there is no interruption at all. All the routes that lead to the polling stations and polling centers will be secured. We have instructed up to the sublocation level, the national administration and the police to ensure that the entire area is secure. We have adequate security. I can confirm that we have adequate security because we will not tolerate a repeat of the incidents that took place in the recent by-elections. And I want to send a very stern warning to each and every person that may want to try to do anything, that they'll face the music. And if anybody has any group that thinks that they can do anything, let them try, and they'll know that it's serious business.
Okay. You had also spoken about a toll-free number that you have issued to the residents in case of any malpractice that they might come across?
Yes, there is a toll-free number, which is 988. And when you send your SMS, start with the word Machakos, and then where you are, and then what is happening there. And action will be taken immediately.
Okay, have you, up until now, have you experienced maybe, or rather have you come across any cases, suspicious cases, maybe?
No serious issue as such. There have been rumors, suspicions, and perceptions. but we have not come across any tangible issue that we need to deal with. But our officers are all outside there, both the regular police and the DCI officers, with their ears on the ground, listening to each and everything and reacting immediately. So we are not taking chances with anything. We are taking action on each and every small thing that we hear.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Just to recap on a few things that the IEBC official that we had spoken to earlier on is that they have not received any official communication on the withdrawal of candidates. And basically what that means is that all the 11 candidates or other contestants who had shown interest in this seat will be on the ballot papers tomorrow. And what they said is that anyone will be voted in. At the end of the day, whoever comes out with the majority of the numbers is the one they will announce as the winner. So basically that is what we will be watching out for tomorrow, to see how the whole thing will pan out. And of course, without forgetting, is that what they've been said is that the COVID-19 measures have been put in place and that all voters will be required to observe. If you don't have a mask, you will not be allowed to get into the polling station. So basically that is what is happening here this evening. And of course, tomorrow we'll keep an eye on any outcomes and we'll be letting our viewer know what is happening from here. That is it from here. Back to you in studio, Wambiru.
Well, thank you so much, Chimenza, giving us an update that it is all systems go ahead of the Machakos senatorial by-election that will be held tomorrow. Now, still on matters politics, the Orange Democratic Movement Party has settled on former Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority Director General Pavel Oimeke to fly the party's flag in Bonchari constituency by-election slated for May 18th. Oimeke emerged the favourite in the race that attracted 3 candidates, including immediate former Kisii County Government Environment and Water CAC John Bill Mumanyi and businessman David Ogega.
Former EPRA Director General Pavel Oimeke will fly the ODM flag in Bonchari by-election. The late Bonchari MP Oro Oyoka's widow, Teresia Bitutu, who had shown interest in the party's ticket, changed her mind at the last minute and joined UDA. Addressing the media in Kisumu on Wednesday, ODM National Elections Board Chairperson Catherine Muma confirmed that the party received papers from 3 candidates, but businessman Billy Ogega was disqualified after it emerged that he was not a life member of the party.
What you've heard us or seen us do from last Friday is to try and reach a consensus between the remaining 2 candidates. Basically, we first give them a chance to try and speak to each other and see whether they can agree for one to step down for the other. I'd like to report that they were not able to reach that consensus.
ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna said Oimeke was the most popular candidate, expressing optimism that he will deliver the seat for the Orange Party.
So in this particular circumstance, the best method was what we have taken, and we believe that the members of the party will stand by this decision, and that every person who was interested in the party ticket will now forego their ambitions and support and ensure that Mr. Pavel Oimeke is elected as the next Member of Parliament for Bonchari.
Meanwhile, Machakos County Commissioner Fred Ndunga has assured residents that security has been beefed up in the county ahead of the Thursday senatorial by-election. Speaking during the distribution of election materials to 1,335 polling stations, Ndunga warned politicians to ensure peace and avoid any coronation with the law. The seat, which fell vacant following the death of Boniface Kabaka, had attracted 10 candidates, namely John Katuku of Maendeleo Chapchap, Agnes Kavindu Wiper, Stanley Muindi, Party of Economic Democracy, Jonathan Maweu, Independent, Francis Munyambo, Independent, Sebastian Nzama, Independent. Others are Abana Sengele of UDA, Simon Kitheka of Grand Dream Development Party, John Musingi of Muungano, and Musembi Ndenge of Ford Asili. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Suleiman Yeri.
Well, for now, we take a short break. But before we take that break, well, we have a 3-part series coming up, and it is on the silent pandemic of the paradox of high fertility and high infertility rates in the country by Safina Chiengo. Well, let's take that break.
Fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione. Si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona. Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii ya jitume mwenyewe kwa simu yako, bonyeza *811*963#.
Unavyojikakamua kupata ufanisi, ndivyo utakavyofurahi baada ya kufanikiwa. Usisubiri kusukumwa na mtu, jitume mwenyewe.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza *811*963#. *811*963#.
On the next episode of
Domo jibaba lizima na chekechea.
Bana, nalimu masomo.
Pia mambo ya kutegemea watu mimi nitakuja yaacha kabisa.
Kutegemea watu kivipi? Sasa hicho jeuri ama nkejeli?
Tutayaona matokeo yake.
Basi cheka sana mchana, usiku ulale.
Usiku na kesha kicheka.
Mr. Nzomo, tell me more about yourself.
Mombasani, madam.
Is there anything wrong with Mombasani?
Matches don't come any bigger than the Emirates FA Cup quarter-finals, which will take center stage this weekend. While Manchester United have a mouth-watering trip to the King Power Stadium, where they will face Leicester City at 8 p.m. Live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. Let's proceed. The National Assembly Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation has urged Kenya Broadcasting Corporation to establish mobile studios at the grassroots level as part of the Studio Mashinani project. The William Kisang-led committee at the same time lauded the project, saying it will encourage youth to tap into the robust creative and entertainment industry.
The William Kisang-led National Assembly Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation on Wednesday toured the Studio Mashinani project at Lang'ata, Nairobi. It is here that the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation was challenged to aggressively promote the initiative by conducting civic education to encourage the youths to sign up.
But we believe what is important is for KBC to go out and market the Studio Mashinani so that our youth, the talented youth outside there, need to know that we have already several Studio Mashinanis across the country. We want to ask them to continue to market, to advertise, to do civic education so that our youth may come to know.
The committee also lauded the progress made after rolling out the Studio Mashinani in the regions, urging the national broadcaster to consider introducing mobile recording studios to give more youths easy access to quality facilities.
We have mobile studios because it's easier to reach. You can reach more youth when we have a mobile studio instead of a fixed studio. That is what came up this afternoon, and we are going to pursue and ensure at least we have maybe 2, 3, 4 mobile studios that we can put across the country.
So far, KBC is running 5 Studio Mashinani projects, with 2 in Nairobi and 1 each in Machakos, Mombasa and Kisumu counties.
Imagine not being able to have a child in a continent that ranks high in the global fertility rates In Africa, a place where marriages is often viewed as a means to an end, the end being procreation. Safina Chingoma takes you to the world of women who have had to bear the brunt of being childless in a society where the paradox of high fertility and high infertility rates still baffles many.
According to the United Nations, on average, women in sub-Saharan Africa have about 5 children over their reproductive lifetime, compared to a global average of 2.5 children.
Africa has one of the highest infertility rates, which is estimated to be about 30% of the population. Coming closer home in Kenya, this is estimated to be between 15 to 20%. I sought to find out how it feels to have no child in a society that faces such a paradox.
My journey takes me to the quiet Kamihawa village at the heart of Bondo sub-county in Siaya County. Here, I meet Margaret Agutu, a widow for 10 years. Margaret has fond memories of her late husband.
I loved my husband because he respected me.
Her high spirits, as she narrates their love story, can mislead you to think that her marriage was a bed of roses. That may have been her desire, but being in a childless marriage was a painful experience.
My brothers encourage me. When I go home, I tell them, you are lucky, you have your children. All my sisters have children except me.
Margaret was married for 5 years before she realized conceiving was difficult. Even though her husband was supportive, societal pressure left her with no option but to request him to marry a second wife.
Even after he married my co-wife, he didn't change his attitude towards me. He treated us equally. He gave me more, saying that I have no one else to help me.
But having children birthed by her co-wife was not enough to fill the gap of being childless.
Even this house, my nephew built it, but I cannot complete it because I have no one to help me. I have no child, so I depend on help from people.
She shares the same plight as Jane Akumu Okoto, a resident of Waseda village in Siaya. In her 30 years of marriage, Jane never got pregnant. After losing her husband years back and with no child of her own, she paints a picture of the solitude she faces in her sunset days.
It is God who gives, and if He doesn't give, I cannot take by force.
Next, I meet Rose Awino Obondo. She has been married twice. During her first marriage, she lived with her husband in Nairobi and was employed as a civil servant. But the exposure to urban life and the financial independence was not enough to keep the emptiness of being childless at bay. The pressure to have a child prompted her to find other alternatives in a bid to silence the naysayers.
Nikapata mimba tena mpaka mimi najua tu niko naye. Hata watu wa kazi alijua. Ya huyo bwanako. No, wakati hiyo tuliwachana.
Even in her second marriage, her conception journey remained far from over.
Tangu siku hiyo tumbo yangu toke mtoto nimetoa kwa roho, siwezi pata, niko hivyo tu.
Dr. Boniface Obai Kamau is a reproductive health expert at Ambira Sub-County Hospital.
Utakuja after 28 days, lakini ukuja on Monday.
We meet him making his routine rounds at the facility's maternity wing. This new mother cannot hide her happiness after a successful delivery. Joy that thousands of women have not experienced and perhaps never will in a society that still has misconceptions around infertility. In many communities, it is still associated with witchcraft.
Tumbo yangu alitoka tu hapo. Watu hapa Sakwa pia iko ma relatives zangu ya mama yangu. Kamwambia hivyo, akasema ungalala kwa hiyo kitanda. Labda hiyo kitanda ndio iko na kitu mbaya.
One person told me to sacrifice my blood brother so I can be able to conceive, but I refused.
So what are the contributing factors of infertility?
Infertility is actually being unable to conceive despite having regular unprotected sexual intercourse. We have where the uterus, for example, during birth, a woman is born without the uterus or is born without the cervix or even the vagina. Those are abnormalities related to formation of the baby in the uterus. Secondary, it means it's a problem secondary to another cause. Commonly we have infections, and these infections will cause tubal blockage. The fallopian tubes normally block, and then the ovary is not able to be fertilized. The sperms cannot reach the ovary to get fertilized.
Despite the high rates of infertility, many are yet to understand its root causes and available options for treatment, and continue suffering in silence. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Acheng Ouma.
Well, part 2 of the silent pandemic will air tomorrow, and the third part of the silent pandemic series will air on Friday. Now let's cross over to business news, where no more dairy product imports will be allowed into the country. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says the country converted excess milk during last year's glut after successive long and short rains, stabilizing milk retail prices in the country.
Though milk production has declined by 50% this year due to disruption of the value chain, the government says milk reserves are sufficient to last the country until the long rain season. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says no additional dairy products will be allowed into the country to protect local farmers from cheap imports.
So we are not going to import any milk. We will continue utilizing those stocks that we have until the production improves. So there is no importation.
In 2020, we were able to process 685 million liters, and our demand is about 800 million per year. So we had a deficit. However, we had a surplus that had been converted into powder milk, and we are reconstituting that milk.
These are the Dairy Industry Regulations 2021 officially came into force. Among others, the regulations will see the government come up with a formula that will determine milk farm gate prices to protect producers.
We will ensure a guaranteed minimum price on milk sales, which will ensure that the investment in the dairy farming gives favorable returns throughout the year.
The government will also draw a contract prototype that will guide agreements between farmers and processors. Automated milk dispensers, bars and parlors will also have to adhere to new safety standards, with businesses required to state their milk sources.
These laws, these regulations, I want to say that since it has gone through the test of time, that anybody trying to put it in the court of law to challenge these regulations will not have their way.
On the current food security status, Munya has declined the National Cereals and Produce Board request for a 4 billion shillings to mop up maize stock from farmers, saying the government will not purchase maize from farmers.
So if they are saying they were looking for 4 billion, I am not aware. I don't know where they're looking for it from, because it's not available. And they are not even allowed to participate in buying food for other purposes other than for trading.
farmers have been asked to sell their maize to private millers. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
The Kenya Bureau of Standards has launched an economic enterprise dubbed Biashara Center that houses regulatory government agencies under one roof. The center is a one-stop shop that provides critical services and necessary infrastructure for small and medium enterprises.
Persons looking to venture into business in the coastal region now have an incubation center to run their ideas through. This follows the launch of the Mombasa Biashara Center that seeks to empower growth and development of small and micro businesses at the regional and grassroots level by bringing standardization services closer to the business and communities. Industrialization CAS Lawrence Karanja urged the SMEs to take advantage of the center to develop their businesses. He said the center will offer help to those venturing into manufacturing sector as they will receive training to ensure their products meet both local and international market standards.
Tuseme kuna kitu unataka kuanza kutengeneza bidhaa ida fulani, utasaidiwa na one of our institute called Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute. Ikwambie kama ni hii bidhaa unataka kutengeneza, the competence zile zinahitajika ni hii na hii na hii, wakusaidie mpaka ufikishe kiwango ambacho kinahitajika. Ili hiyo bidhaa iende kwa soko, utaipeleka kwa Kenya Bureau of Standards, sababu bado watakuwa hapo waiangalia waone kama imefikia kiwango cha kwenda kwa soko. Wakicertify imeenda kwa soko, basi kutoka hapo ukipenda unaweza enda uregister kwa ili uprotect hiyo jina ama hiyo bidhaa, mtu mwingine asije kuiga na kutengeneza kama hiyo. Itaeleka kwa Kenya KIPI ama Kenya Industrial Property Institute. Ukishamaliza kwa KIPI, kama sasa ile shida inakujanga labda hapo ni pesa ama ile inaitwa capital, ukitaka hiyo incubation, basi idara yetu moja inaitwa Kenya Industrial Estate, mtakuwa na wao, watakusaidia kwa kufinance.
The CAS noted the need to focus on products for the local market to meet demand and reduce overdependence on imported goods.
Tumesema kwa tutakuwa tukiomba idara za counties government pia waje hapa, ili ukishamaliza hiyo wanaweza kusaidia pia kukupea kitu inaitwa single business permit. Kwa hivyo this is one stop shop ambapo ukiingia tu ni kama vile unaenda wakati unatafuta kwa biashara kwa huduma center, unapata kitambulisho, unapata abstract, unapata vitu zingine. Sasa hapa for the purposes of business, that's why it's called Biashara Center. It is a one-stop shop.
This center is the second to be launched out of Nairobi after Eldoret. Reporting for Channel 1 Business News from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Muniga.
Moving on, Kenya Revenue Authority has cautioned the public against the use of fraudulent registered motor vehicles and those whose import duty has not been paid for. The taxman has kicked off investigations to identify perpetrators of the fraudulent undertakings, which has seen some innocent Kenyans purchase the said vehicles unaware of the scheme.
Kenyans have been urged to be on the lookout for irregularly registered motor vehicles, which KRS says are being sold to unsuspecting customers. Legally, being in possession of motor vehicles for which duty has not been paid is an offence under the East African Community Customs Management Act of 2004. Import of vehicles that do not comply with KEB standards on the 8-year rule is prohibited. KRA wants members of the public to verify the status of payment of custom duty of registered motor vehicles before purchasing. In the recent past, KRA has continued to intercept imported or locally manufactured goods, warning the public to avoid the consequences of investigations, prosecution, seizure and detention of their goods. Terry Njenga, Channel 1 Business.
Efforts to resolve a revenue sharing spat between the Ministry of Tourism and Taita Taveta County have been derailed after ministry officials snubbed an alternative dispute resolution meeting. The county government is claiming a share of revenue generated from Savo West and Savo East National Park, which covers over 60% of the county's landmass.
Tsavo National Park generates 60 billion shillings in revenue annually. The Taita County government is claiming a chunk of the funds, saying locals are not benefiting from the parks that occupy over 10,000 hectares of the county's 17,000. This claim has now pitted the county government against the tourism ministry, a case that has prompted the intervention of the Intergovernmental Technical Committee through alternative dispute resolution mechanism. A meeting to roll ahead discussions was unsuccessful after tourism ministry representatives failed to show up.
Ni vizuri taasisi za serikali, vitengo zote za serikali na pia idara za serikali kuweza kuheshimu sheria ambazo ziko ili tuweze kuhudumia wananchi vizuri.
The committee chair said the ministry should take the matter seriously and show the will to reach a resolution.
This should not be repeated and that we are, for the sake of resolving the dispute, we are going to make another attempt to bring the two parties together.
The county is also seeking to have some game ranger vacancies at KWS set aside for Taita Taveta residents. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
And in the sports arena, the Kenya national men and women hockey teams will play 3 test matches each against Uganda from tomorrow to Sunday at the Sek Union Hockey Stadium. The first 2 test matches will be played tomorrow, with the remaining 4 matches being played on Saturday and Sunday.
After a year of no play due to the coronavirus pandemic, hockey returns to play in the country from tomorrow, with the national men and women teams set to play the 2 Ugandan counterparts in 3 test matches each. Kenya women will face Uganda in the first test match tomorrow afternoon before the Kenyan men play Uganda in their opening test match at the Sek Union Stadium. The 4 teams will rest on Friday, and then the women teams again get to the pitch first before the men on Saturday afternoon. The final 2 matches will be played on Sunday. The 2 countries are playing the test matches to improve their rankings. Kenya currently sits at position 48 in the men's world ranking, topped by Belgium. In Africa, it sits 4th behind South Africa, Egypt and Ghana. The Kenyan ladies are 3 places better than their male counterparts, sitting in position 45 in the world rankings, topped by Netherlands. South Africa, Ghana and Namibia are the only African countries above the Kenyan ladies in the global ranking. The test matches by the national teams are a curtain raiser to the Hockey League set to restart in April.
National Olympic Committee of Kenya President Paul Tergut, who is also an IOC member, has been appointed as a new board member of the Olympic Refugee Foundation for a 4-year period. The foundation board, while appointing Tergut as its new member, reaffirmed its commitment to leveraging sport to protect and support young people affected by displacement worldwide. Tergut hailed the appointment as another positive cap for Kenya, which is one of the hosts of the Refugee Olympic team. 18 IOC refugee scholarship holders are currently training in Ngong and are part of the 55 refugee athlete scholarship holders worldwide vying to be part of the Refugee Olympic team Tokyo 2020. Harambee Stars coach Jacob Gusmule is adamant Tanzania will give their best to disorient Stars when the 2 sides meet again in a friendly match at the Nyayo National Stadium tomorrow. Mule insists the friendly matches will give him an opportunity to gauge the potential of every player before playing Egypt and Togo in the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers later this month.
Harambee Stars will face Taifa Stars tomorrow for the second time this week in a friendly match set to be played at the Nyayo National Stadium. Eric Kapaito and Abdallah Hassan scored for Stars in a 2-1 win over Tanzania on Monday, a win that followed a 1 win over South Sudan in their first friendly. Coach Jacob Mule is preparing the team for their second build-up match against Taifa Stars at the Nyayo National Stadium after the venue was changed due to unavailability of Kasarani Stadium. Mule insists the friendly matches will give him an opportunity to gauge the potential of every player before playing Egypt and Togo in the AFCON qualifiers. Kenya will host Group G leaders Egypt on the 25th of this month before travelling to Togo on the 29th of this month. Stars, who are third in the group with only 3 points from 4 games after losing 1 and drawing 3, will be aiming to win the 2 qualifiers and hope either Egypt or Comoros will slip in order to qualify for the 2021 Continental Tournament. Taifa Stars will face Equatorial Guinea and Libya in their next qualifiers.
Egyptian side Pyramids recorded their second straight group game of the CAF Confederations Cup, beating Namungo 2-0 at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Tanzania. The win sent Pyramids to 6 points and leaves Namungo third in Group D without a point. Now the CAF Confederation Cup matches were aired and will continue to be televised live on KBC Channel 1 and our sister station Y254.
Egyptian side Pyramids recorded their second straight Group D win of the CAF Confederations Cup by beating Tanzanian side Namungo 2-0 at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Tanzania. Ramadan Sobi penalty in the second half and Omar Gamber goals handed Pyramids the win that sends them to 6 points on the table.
And Sobi scored, sending Neymar the wrong way. Second goal, 5 minutes from the end. Great 1-2 between Gabber and Farouk and Gabber.
In the other game, Kabali of Algeria came from 2 goals down to draw 2-2 with Napsa Stars of Zambia. Kabali now leads Group B with 4 points, while Napsa Stars remain bottom with just 1 point. Cotton Sport and Berkane are second and third respectively with 3 points each.
Towards the ground, the ball bouncing off. The defender once more, and into the back of the net, and then a mistake, miscommunication between Kabwe and
Now the final set of the Champions League round of 16 second leg ties will be played tonight as Chelsea, who have a 1-0 advantage, will be hosting Atletico Madrid at the Stamford Bridge, while Bayern Munich, who were 4-1 winners in the first leg, will take on Lazio. Last night, Manchester City moved into the quarterfinals for a 4th successive season after a 4-0 aggregate victory over Borussia Mönchengladbach, while Real Madrid also secured a quarterfinal place with victory over Atalanta.
Inside the first 18 minutes, Ramos against Sportiello. Brilliantly done. The 3 run away, right for his strike. Brilliant. That's a majestic goal from Muriel.
Tonight, Chelsea will be open to secure a win that will see them qualify for the quarterfinals when they take on Atletico Madrid tonight. Chelsea, who secured a 1-0 away win, will be without Jorginho and Mason Mount for the second leg of the last 16 after being suspended. Defender Thiago Silva and Tammy Abraham will remain out due to injuries. Atletico Madrid will call upon Kieran Trippier, Yannick Carrasco and Jose Gimenez after the trio missed the first leg. In another match, Bayern Munich will take on Lazio at the Allianz Arena. Daniel Mwendwa for Channel 1 Sports.
Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin tonight. For more news, check out our website at kbc.co.ke. Up next is Irene Machuma with the weather updates. My name is Jacky Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. Have a good night.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to Channel 1 Weather Updates. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. There are showers of a few places in the county of Nairobi and areas around the region. The showers accompanied by thunderstorms which are being experienced over the Lake Basin region will continue through to the morning hours. This as the rest of the country is experiencing partly cloudy conditions, but there are a bit of cloudy weather conditions over the northeastern parts of the country. And tomorrow, waking up to rains over the northeastern parts of the country. Mandera, Moyale, Marsabit, Wajir will mainly experience rains during the morning hours, as much as sunny intervals will later on prevail. The coastal strip will mainly be sunny, but Malindi and Mombasa will experience showers during the early morning hours. The Lake Basin region will also experience sunny intervals, but a few areas will experience scattered wet conditions. And then in the capital, Meru and Nyeri, there'll be cool and cloudy weather conditions, which will be characterized with light rains before giving way to sunny intervals. And in the afternoon, we'll see an increase of wet conditions over the western parts of the country. These will be showers accompanied by thunderstorms in Kisumu, Kakamega, Kitale, Bungoma, Kisii, and also areas around Narok. The northeastern parts of the country in Moyale, Wajir, Mandera, and Marsabit, there'll be showers during the afternoon hours, and the coastal strip will mainly experience sun intervals. And for you in the capital, Meru and Nyeri, during the afternoon hours, there is a possibility of showers over a few places. And when we look at temperatures, the capital will tomorrow experience highs of 27 degrees Celsius. The highest across the country will be experienced in Garissa at 37 degrees Celsius. And for you in Lodwar, be prepared for highs of 36 degrees Celsius. How about you cross the borders and have a look at the international forecast? Good night. See you tomorrow, God willing.
Thank you, Lord, for having given us this wonderful day. Before we do anything, let your glory be seen in us. My name's Pastor Joseph Mighty Wichenje from African Divine Church Mission, Patmos Assembly, Pangani region. We are situated in Mathare, Area 4, Mradi. Today, I want to speak about restoration. And our verse will come from the book of Joel,